Hi there, I'm nicodehaan, and welcome to Living a Primal Lifestyle, where we explore a return to a more balanced and natural wild world.
To recover our natural health, regain our rights and freedoms. And I'm Ellen Dahan.
Yeah, it's a beautiful day in Durango, Colorado. Right now it's 22 degrees, a low last night of about 8 degrees, or 6 degrees, it says here. So, yeah, it was kind of cool.
Last winter we had more snow and warmer temperatures.
Yeah.
And this year we have some snow, but it's been quite chilly in the single digits or
the last snowstorm was really in November.
No, it was Christmas Day.
Oh, Christmas Day, we had a little bit.
We had about 4 inches over a couple of
But
days.
the big storm, 8 to 10 inches was way
Mhm.
before. Anyway, we're still enjoying it and we love it. And so please subscribe to our YouTube and Odysee channels. Hit the follow button, hit the like button to help our channel grow. And we also post on Facebook and LinkedIn. So if you hit the link below the show notes, you can maximize your nutrition with products from Mother Earth Labs. And these are the products that we use to supplement our diet. Now, we look at mainstream news stories about anti-aging, natural health, history, and climate, as well as our freedoms. And we do our own analysis. All topics for today's shows are in the show notes listed below in the description. If you have any questions or comments, you can reach me at nicodehaan. That's right here, nicodehaan@me.com, or you can just put it on in the comments. Yeah, on one of those platforms there. Yeah. And this is the Mother Earth Labs here. So it's been a while since we've been on the air.
Yeah, we've been doing the holidays, and honestly, the environment has been so negative, and everything's been so toxic that we got that norovirus that was going around.
Well, whatever the virus was, we don't know what it was, but it was really bad for a few days. And then we decided that we remembered we had some ivermectin that we got from Canada. And so we took that, and right away we started feeling relief. So it was pretty amazing.
Yeah, but it kind of lingered on for almost a month.
Yeah, it was really bad for like 4 or 5 days.
Yeah, I don't remember. I haven't had anything like that in well over 10 years.
Yeah, and it just lingered on and on for another 10 days or something like that.
And it was a mess. I mean, I literally sat down on the couch, covered myself in a blanket, and didn't get up until dinner. You know, it was debilitating.
It was rough for sure, and a lot of people I know have gotten it.
People all over the country that we've seen and we follow.
Yeah. So we wanted to start off the new year, since we hadn't been on for a while, with something really positive.
Yeah, I said enough with all this bad news. Let's try something different, something positive and uplifting, and maybe supportive of having a better year.
All kinds of positive thinking and just looking ahead with a positive frame. And it just reminds me of when I was a kid. My dad was one of the first books he gave me on this subject was from Dale Carnegie. I'll just put a link up here or show you some.
Dale Carnegie training. Yeah, Dale Carnegie was, these are like from the 50s, right?
Yeah.
Dale Carnegie. He had a series of courses and books that he wrote and advice that he offered to succeed in business and basically in life. And he was kind of one of the first ones.
Yeah, it talks about leadership and stuff, but the first book that I read was How to Win Friends and Influence People.
And that was the Dale Carnegie book.
That was the Dale Carnegie book. And it really brought about some changes in the way I looked at things, I think. I think the reason my dad gave it to me is because we've been moving around a lot. I had to go to new schools and I had to make new friends, and the old friends were in other cities. So that's something that he gave to me, and something that he used when he was a salesman. And basically the book was very positive, how to remember people's names, how to relate to other people, how to have a positive attitude. And it really helped me establish myself as feeling good about myself, where
give you confidence.
Yeah, give you confidence about things.
Mhm.
So
Yeah,
that
and
was,
the other thing is that it is still extremely relevant today,
oh yeah, I don't
regardless
think
of
it
the
goes
fact that it
away.
was written quite a while ago.
Yeah.
And I really, if you're struggling in business, or if you're just wanting to improve a little bit, maybe, and see what you can do to expand your horizons and your skill sets, we recommend looking into some of these works.
Yeah. And the second one that really influenced me was J. Christopher Namurti. Now, this came from a completely different perspective. J. Christopher Murty was from India,
Mhm.
and the first book I read from him was called "You Are the World," and I think this was in the early '70s. Because after I finished school, and I was already in business, I think I was working for Sears at the time. But then, I was getting a divorce and stuff like that, and I wanted to kind of reframe myself. And I was going through this bookstore, and all of a sudden, this book, "You Are the World," was there. And it was a question kind of book. So, in other words, people were asking questions of J. Christopher Murty, and he was giving his answers.
Mhm.
And J. Christopher, he was born in like 1895 in India. And he set up this society in Ouray, California. In fact, in 1975, when I left Detroit area, I went to California with a friend of mine who's now passed away, Ron, and I visited Ojai, where his
Center was.
where his center
Mhm.
was, and that was kind of a great thrill. And I was still reading some of his books. The last one I read was called "Awakening the Intelligence Within," something like that.
Mhm. Mhm.
But he looked at it some completely different. I just put these in the show notes so you can reference and take a
Go
look at it
take a
for
look at it.
for yourself. But what he was talking about was that the thinking machine that we have, he called the observer. And he said the observer is always conditioned by whatever you were brought up with. In other words, society,
So
your
this is not the
family, your
observer.
religion, all these things were influencing the way you think.
The observer was crafted by and founded by and based upon all of the influences on your life as you were growing up.
Yeah, and the question he put out was, can you look at things without that observer?
Or
And
without that filter.
without that filter,
Mhm.
which he called the observer.
Mhm.
And so it kind of reframed. I started thinking about it. I said, yeah, we're always, even with Dale Carnegie, what he was doing, just conditioning or reconditioning yourself in
Mhm.
more of a positive life and
Mhm.
light. And there's nothing wrong with that. But J. Christopher Murty kind of said, okay, can you look at the tree without the reference of knowing what a tree is and seeing it for the first time? And that kind of goes, whoa, wait a minute, this is something completely new. And how do you stop your mind from the thinking? Because one of the most important things that we're told is that we're thinking animals, we're above all the animals, and the
Mhm.
animals really don't think because they don't have words, but they do have pictures.
Yeah, they do think actually.
They
As it
do,
turns
they
out.
think,
Yeah,
but they're
right, right.
not without words or
Mhm.
not with words.
Well, not the same way.
No, I guess we
Mhm.
teach dogs words and things like that, and they
Mhm.
reference that. But that took me a whole different path of saying, okay, can I quiet my mind? And is this where the intelligence really is? And is this where the direct connection to people, in other words, love is and
Mhm.
relationships? Can you have a relationship with somebody that's completely new, that's not filtered by all your thoughts and conditioning that you have?
And all the baggage that you drag
All the
around.
baggage, exactly. Yeah. So that took me down to a completely different path, kind of more spiritual path.
Mhm.
Although Krishnamurti says, I'm not a guru, I'm not a teacher. He says we need to look at things without the teacher, without the student.
Without anybody telling you
without
which way to
anything.
go.
Yeah. And
Mhm.
have a fresh, open mind. And that it really opened my eyes to quite a few different things. And then, let's see here. You go to the next influence when I was starting in business, and I had been working for this company in Florida, and they got taken over. It was a pest control company called Apollo Pest Control, and they got taken over by a huge corporation, Waste Management. And waste management opened my eyes to a different world of sales and management and teaching people how to sell, and introduced me to Tony Robbins, because one of the trainers that was doing train the trainer things uh, was talking about Tony Robbins, and I bought Tony Robbins.
So that's where you heard of Tony Robbins.
Yeah, that's where I heard
became
of Tony, and
acquainted with-
I think I bought the book Awakening the Giant Within,
Mhm.
and Tony Robbins was a real good influence on really positive thinking, changing your mindset, changing what it means to be healthy and have money or not have money, and changing your mind on relationships and things like that, and looking at it as shaking things up. In other words, if you're not satisfied, if you're not happy with the way things are going, how do we look at it in a different light?
Yeah, you know, my Tony Robbins story is that quite a number of years ago, I got mugged in front of my house.
Oh yeah, I remember that was just before I came along.
Yeah, I didn't know you.
Right.
So I got mugged, and they grabbed my purse and they took off, and it was the street was kind of a little street and it didn't have much light, and it was evening. I had come back from a meeting, was getting stuff out of my car, and these people were just roaming around robbing people right and left. They had a car full of credit cards and wallets and purses and whatever, as it turned out. Anyway, the experience, and I was screaming and yelling, and nobody came out. Nobody, including my significant other at the time.
Wow.
And I was very shaken by the experience. I wasn't hurt,
Mhm.
but I was surrounded. You know, a car drove up. People, about 4 or 5 people poured out of it. They
Wow.
grabbed my purse, and I was shaken by it. And of course, when you have a negative experience like that, it keeps popping back into your head. And I was struggling with it. And then I happened to be listening to Tony Robbins, and he talked about how you can transform a negative memory by adding humor to it.
Right. I remember those things. Yeah.
So I took that memory and I converted it into a clown car with with about 5 clowns coming out of it and wearing big red noses and orange wigs and giant shoes and crazy outfits, and I could hear in the background of my memory of do 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 like a circus.
Yeah.
And sure enough, all of the energy went out of that experience. And the only time I ever think about it now is if I'm doing something like this, talking about experiences and how it works. But and when I do, I don't have any negative energy from it because of the circus.
Yeah.
You know,
It's amazing that you can do that, because
I didn't have a choice. It was
right.
The other was so toxic and so damaging to me, and
well, we all have those experiences of being bullied, especially in schools. For the first time that I remember getting bullied, I was very young because I couldn't speak English when I came over from the Netherlands. So coming from Holland, speaking Dutch and knowing just how to count to 10 and yes or no, and that's about it.
Where's the bathroom?
Yeah, maybe that was it too, sure. But then as you get older, you get to high school, and there's always these cliques that they have. The frat boys and the greasers and all these different things. And
sports.
The first thing people ask you, are you this or are you that? Do you belong here? And in college, it was, do you belong to a fraternity and a sorority and stuff like that? So, it's reframing, I think, is one of those things. And that's what Tony Robbins, I think, gave to you.
Transform.
Transform.
And the other thing that I've learned is, if you keep on telling the story, the negative story, you will relive the negative experience every time you tell the story.
Yeah.
So don't tell the story, or make it funny.
Yeah, or just change the story a little bit. I guess that's what history is about, his story or her story.
History is about a totally different agenda.
It's an indoctrination.
Control and But
so
let's just stick to.
Well, it's important to understand too that the history of like a country, we tell how we were founded and stuff like that. But then the other side of it, of course, when
We're sticking to positive.
well, yeah, but to get to the positive, sometimes you have to understand the downside of it too. It's like the American story is how great it is to form this country and stuff like that. But the other side of it is what happened to the people who were here. It's like we
The original
neglected them.
Americans.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't want to belabor that fact, but it's to, it's to understand that a story is to change the narrative.
Well,
That's why we tell these
the
stories.
point here is
Mhm.
the story is a story
Yeah,
that
that's true.
we all have our
It's that
stories.
conditioning that
And
Krishnamurti was talking
was,
about, right?
it's the story that we tell ourselves about our lives.
Mm-hmm.
And if you get too invested in the negative side of the story, or too invested in the victim side of the story,
Yeah.
and if you dwell on that sort of thing, then you're going to pay the price.
Yeah.
And that kind of leads me into the concept of your brain believes what your body tells it.
Somebody's listening, and it's you.
And it's you.
So if you're in the mirror talking, man, I look like crap this morning, and
Yeah, then you feel like crap.
Yeah, then you start.
The words that the words matter kind of concept too, and so the story you tell yourself, and the way you tell it, and then you begin believing it, then you start living by it, and it isn't reality.
And the
It
first
doesn't
influence
have to be.
Yeah, the first influence we have are our parents.
Uh-huh.
So if your parents are very negative and they tell you all these negative things, then you're going to have that view of yourself, that conditioning. I was lucky. My dad was a very positive person. I mean, he'd be singing every morning and whistling, and so that's the way I grew up. My mother was a little bit more negative, but it was kind of.
Well, your mother was a little bit was muddled by her by the bipolar.
Yeah.
That went undiagnosed for so many years,
Yeah.
and it was a real shame.
Yeah, well,
Very
there's
sharp lady.
traumas that we go through. My parents went through the World War II,
Mhm.
and
in Holland.
in an occupied country.
Yeah.
My dad was in the underground, so he was gone a lot, and my mother had to deal with the two children. So me and my sister.
Lack of food, lack of
food, lack
resources.
of resources,
Mhm.
and being scared because there was bombing going all around.
Mhm.
So those conditionings, they decided to leave that and have a more positive life by coming to first Canada, then America.
And anybody who change in general is very daunting, and all of us face change. It's more often than we want because we're much more comfortable and we're used to something, and you're on your routine.
Well, we're forced to change by schools. We're forced to change by jobs.
Oh,
we moved because of these things. Yeah.
When we both grew up, we moved around a lot. We were in a situation where so many people that was part of the problem when you moved to a new school, because these kids had known each other since kindergarten, and it was you were the outsider, whatever.
That's for sure.
But I mean, in many ways, that kind of change made us both more resilient and more able to adjust to change and to deal with change. But just something like the restaurant that you like to go to suddenly closes.
Traumatic things.
It's like, gosh, now we have to find it. Well, even when we moved here, we had our routine in Florida, where we would go
that we'd see,
and with that we'd see, and then suddenly we didn't have a restaurant to go to on our Wednesday night date night, and we didn't have we didn't have our Saturday lunch routine.
No, we
and we had to reestablish it, which we did.
Yeah.
And in fact, we've met many people that way.
Yeah.
It was great.
Yeah.
But
so let's go to some of these articles about what and the one you put in here was about
10 ways to find your happiness.
Yeah, how to find your own happiness.
This came from Tony Robbins, and he talks a lot. He says, we live in a culture that teaches people you're not good enough unless you do something really special and unique. And I would add to that, and make a lot of money.
For sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then he goes on to say, but our definition of what qualifies as special or unique is distorted. Why do we praise celebrities without fully appreciating people who do invaluable work, such as school teachers, Why do we look at stay-at-home parents as caregivers when many of them are working tirelessly to nurture and raise the future of the world? Doesn't that deserve to be called special? In our culture, we are often pushed to do what we believe society wants us to do rather than following the pull of passion. When we follow the push instead of the pull, we cannot create happiness that is truly meaningful.
Yeah, my dad was a very great man. He told me, because when I was going to school, I said, I really don't know what I want to do. Yeah, I'd like to be a jet pilot. Stuff like that.
Fly without a jet.
Fly without a jet. Like Peter Pan, for sure. So I really was unsure. And my dad always said, he says, what if we have a situation where no matter what, everybody got paid the same. No matter what they did for others, everybody got the same amount of money. What would you do? What would everybody do? And that really goes along with some of the things I think to say. How to make your own as these
Friendship gets started. You must learn. Nobody make you accept you creating that.
No matter what your life is, follow still creates your own artistic to help.
So number one is love what you love, do what you love, do what you do.
Yeah, I think that's what my dad.
Too many people in this world say the best. Get up in the morning, drink going. Get through the week, live for the week, hate their job, or at least they're not stimulated by not creating happiness from them. And it says it's impossible to find your own happiness when you spend 8 hours a day doing work you're not passionate about. If you're unhappy at work, it's time to find a new job or a completely new career. And that's what he's saying. He says that makes all the difference in the world, just to how you get up in the morning.
Yeah, I think a lot of people feel trapped because they don't have the resources.
Or they've
told them.
I remember there was an attorney in the first large firm that after I got out of law school, and he hated his job. He hated the practice. He just hated it. And he had been in another type of practice in New Jersey before he came down to Florida. He had a wife and 2 children. And I said to him, why do you stay if you hate the practice? And he said, well, I have 2 kids. I have a wife. I have to support my family. And he literally stayed in that job until he passed away.
Yeah. I think this is a story for a lot of people.
Yeah. All right. Number 2 is stop comparing.
Your life.
Now, this is so important.
Yeah, your life is not anyone else's, which is why you need to find your own happiness rather than relying on others to tell you what happiness means.
Yeah, stop comparing yourself to others because you never know what's going on behind closed doors. Get off social media. Stop looking at what everyone else has that you don't and focus on what brings you joy. And I would add to that, don't believe everything you see on Facebook. I mean, people are just trying to put themselves either in the best light or the most dramatic light or, something to get those likes.
Yeah.
And it's not real.
It's a trap.
And the other thing was always, it never mattered to me. I never compared myself to anybody else in the business in terms of what my salary was. First of all, I had no control over the salary. It was the company's control. But the point was, if I felt I were being justly compensated for what I was doing and for what I was bringing to the table, then I'm fine. I'm not comparing myself to anybody else.
Yeah. Well, it's also easier. You were an attorney, so you were making a good income. So it's easier.
Well, I wasn't making as much as the boys.
No, but it's still a heck of a lot easier than somebody who's making minimum wage.
Oh, yeah. Well,
And,
I'm
a woman
saying,
making less than a man.
saying you need to adjust your life so that you get a living wage and that you're in a job that you can at least feel good about.
No doubt
All
about it.
right. Number 3, make a list. And it says, when we're feeling down, it can be difficult to remember what made us happy in the past. Next time you do something that brings you joy, add it to a list. Then the next time you need a mood boost, look at the list and choose one of the activities. I would add to that, we have some friends who have now moved to France, but that what they do is every year they start on January 1st, and every day they write down something that they enjoyed, or that they a good experience they had, or something they're grateful for, and it all year long they do that and put it in a jar. And then on New Year's Day, they take everything out of the jar and take a look and review the year and see all the good things that happen.
A happiness jar, I guess.
A happiness jar.
Well, also you use lists a lot, and it's one of the benefits of a list is you scratch things off, and you've accomplished something, and you don't have to think
tangible
about
evidence that you did it.
Exactly.
And and then of course my little secret is that if I have something that I needed to do and wasn't on the list, I put it on the list so I can cross it off.
yeah. Well, it's a good tactic, I think, too.
It is. It makes you feel productive, and plus it reminds you. I mean, I have notes all over the place here because I'll think of something and I'll think, oh, better jot that down before it's gone, And it's something like, renew my LLC or call somebody for their birthday.
The thing is, once you make a list, you're obligated to do something.
So you feel more.
Yeah, I mean, you're
more motivated.
Yeah,
not obligated.
Yeah, I've had this sense, and this was a negative part of it, is that I didn't want to make the list because then I have to do something. So I've had that experience too. So but it is a good accomplishment. I think it's a good habit to get into.
And with computers today and everything, I mean, it's so easy, or iPads, whatever, so easy to jot something down on a document, you know. And the next one is be around those who bring you happiness. Well, again, you can't get happiness from anybody else, but they can take away the good energy that's around you. Yeah. If you surround yourself with toxic people.
So choose positive, supportive people in your inner circle, and you will be much more likely to find your own happiness. That's for sure. Yeah. I know just hanging around with the people from jiu-jitsu, it's a very positive atmosphere. You're doing something positive. Everybody's happy. It's a big, big plus for sure.
Yeah. Okay. Adopt a gratitude mindset.
Be thankful.
It's so important to think about, instead of focusing on all the stuff you don't have, or the places you didn't go, or the people you don't know, or whatever. If you focus on what am I grateful for?
Yeah.
It's like when we moved here, it was like coming home.
Mm-hmm.
It was the most extraordinary experience. It just was an absolute comfort and feeling right, even though we didn't know anybody. And we had to kind of start over again. And we didn't have kids in school to help us meet people. We didn't have a job to help us meet people. So we were just kind of floundering about, but we had each other.
Yep.
And we loved our house. And we loved the weather. And we loved the little town that we lived in. And there's so many things that we have that we're grateful for that it made all the difference.
Yeah.
It really did, because we could have very easily sunk.
Yeah. And I think that's where a lot of these old texts, like the Bible and things like that, they have a lot of different things in there that talk about gratefulness. And the Ten Commandments, I think, were along those lines, that this is the way you want to feel about things.
Well, there was a template for ethical living.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, number 6, do something for others.
That's one of the real gratifying things about life.
Service.
Sure. Yeah, service.
So you teach jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
And you have the opportunity, you get great feedback from your students. So often you'll get a text message from someone saying, what a good class, professor, that, things like that. I volunteer. I'm on one board for Little Spark, which is an education and resource arm of the Observer Ranch. I volunteer for Habitat for Humanity on the side of strategic planning and fundraising.
Yeah.
and I work for the Earth Law Center, helping them organize events and doing whatever they need me to do. And it's not any kind of, it's not even a part-time job. It's an occasional.
Yeah, mine is more regular because I'm going there 3 times a
Right.
week, but all of it's service and it's all voluntary.
Yeah,
We don't get an income
paid
from
from any
and we're lucky that we're in a situation that we can. We have Social Security, we have a lot of other income.
Fortunately, we planned adequately for retirement.
That helps.
And of course it helps. It's just the peace of mind of knowing that you're secure.
And we're not extravagant.
No, we don't.
We don't go beyond our means, and that means that we can do these things. So that's very gratifying. And now we're doing what we love. Only things that we choose to do, and we help other people. So it all fits together pretty nicely.
Yeah. Okay. Always have something to look forward to.
Yeah, that's part of that list that you talk about in the sense, right?
Yeah. And, things like, for example, we know that we're going to the Observer Ranch for their grand opening in the end of April. And then August Dunning, who's what's his background? He was on
he was the leader of the spaceship or
space
the
station.
Space station. Yeah, so he was the commander for that. He'd been involved with NASA for many, many years, and he's an observer with Kat and Ben Davidson from the Space Weather News. And yeah, so it's somebody I've followed for many years. I've never really met him yet, so looking forward to meeting him. And he talks a lot about humanity and what's
interesting
stuff with.
Yeah, we'll tell you more about that as we experience it. That's the first weekend in May. Then we got my niece and her husband and my great niece and great nephew are coming to visit us in June. So we have things that we're really looking forward to.
Yep.
And we always, we make sure that we have things that we're looking forward to.
Yeah, we always plan a little vacation for a week to 10 days to go someplace that we've never been or have great memories from.
Or go visit family.
Or go visit friends and family. We have, Colorado Bigfoot that we go visit at least once a year and go out with him. So yeah, we look forward to those things, and even our jiu-jitsu friends, we go out like at the
meet
end
them for dinner occasionally.
Yeah, meet them for dinner. We also have these things that we have a choke and soak coming up in a couple of weeks on a Saturday
for the dojo.
And so a bunch of us are going to carpool and go to Pagosa Springs and visit with those jiu-jitsu people there, and then go soak in the hot springs for a couple hours and have lunch. So that's something that we do annually here, and looking forward to that. So
and that leads us to number 8, which is create experiences.
There you go.
And it says, once you truly know what brings you joy, enhance it by experiencing it with others who share your version of happiness. And so having pleasurable experiences with others creates meaningful connections and helps you more deeply enjoy activities you love.
Yeah.
Now, here's a very important one, number 9.
Oh boy, yeah, and I had trouble with that.
Say what it is.
Well, it's just
knowing when to say no.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, so I've had trouble where somebody's asked me something, and would you do something? I would say, yeah, I'd go along with it, and then realize later, this is not something I want to do. This is not somewhere I want to be. I really don't want to be with this person. And it took me a while just to get the courage for myself to say, I don't want to do this. It's okay. I like you, but I don't want this.
Not available for
this particular activity. So yeah, it's important to set your boundaries, to understand what your passions are. And if it's not your passions, maybe you shouldn't be doing it.
Or the people tend to overextend themselves, to overcommit themselves.
True.
There's so.
Well, you want to be nice.
Everybody who's listening to this or watching this has had the experience for themselves and knowing people who overcommit themselves.
Yep. They
can't say no. And as a result, they're running around in circles. They're overextended. They're hurting themselves physically and mentally and emotionally. And it's very difficult. You have to choose the things. It's like this. I'm helping a friend of ours. She wrote a book, a novel, and she asked me if I would then work with her go through the novel, figure it out. And one of the things that we've discussed at length is, well, first of all, you need to create the characters so that you understand who they are, what motivates them, and why they're doing what they're doing. And number two, if this information that you're putting on the page does not advance the story or increase your understanding of the characters, then you don't need it.
Mm.
It's just extra stuff.
Yeah, that's kind of what life simulating in life.
And that's what I'm saying, is that, before you're going to commit to something, is it something that you want to do that adds to your experience, adds to your joy, adds to your ability to be of service? Yeah. Is that what this is? Or is it, or it could be purely, let's go swimming, Yeah,
it could be something.
And that's fine for entertainment and relaxing and whatever. But the point is, it has to add something to your life, or don't do it. And then take time for yourself.
This is the last one, number 10. You can't create your own happiness when you don't know yourself deeply. You need to regularly
need regular
me time. One of the things I think that helps me in me time is the jiu-jitsu. Of course, I'm with people, but when I come home, I usually have a nice stretching session or a workout section where I'm by myself. I go for these morning walks a few times a week, and that gives me 45 minutes to an hour of me time.
Plus, you're outside.
I'm outside.
You're experiencing
my sunlight and stuff like that. Yeah, and we do different activities a lot of times when we're home alone. We're not alone. You're in another room doing something, and I'm in my room. We're very comfortable being by ourselves,
but knowing that we're there.
Yeah, and then we're comfortable when we're together. It's awesome too. So, I mean, it's a nice balance. So, but you do need that
time for yourself. You have to. There has to be time when you're not constantly thinking about what I need to do for someone else, and that you need to have peace and quiet, and whatever that might be: reading a book, watching a movie, taking a walk, taking a bath, working on a jigsaw puzzle, working on Sudoku, whatever it is. Take some time where you're not interacting with anybody else, and you're just. Now, for me, also writing. I do a lot of writing, and for me, that's very therapeutic.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, me putting my classes together for teaching.
Yeah, your research.
Yeah, my research for doing that and how to structure it, and always learning, and it's an endless process too. So next article.
Should be.
Yeah, it's no doubt about it. Yeah. Okay. So here's why you can't forgive yourself, plus tips on how to practice self-forgiveness.
I think, one of the things I was thinking of when I was doing some research here to find some articles was one of the problems that we have is letting go of negative experiences and thinking, oh, I shouldn't have done that, or I should have done something differently. And so here's rule number 2. Now, rule number 1 was no one else can make you happy. You have to create your own happiness. And number 2 is you can't change the past. What's done is done. But you can learn from it, make a plan for how you might deal with it if it happens similarly again.
Recognizing it, for sure.
Acknowledging it. And if necessary, making amends with people if you've had a negative experience with somebody.
Yeah. So here, forgiveness is often defined as a deliberate decision to let go of feelings of anger, resentment, and retribution towards someone who you believe has wronged you. However, while you may be quite generous in your ability to forgive others, you may be harder on yourself.
Yeah, and it's really true. I mean, how many times do you think about it? I was saying, I think I had a pretty calm childhood, regardless of the trauma, the strange experiences that were going on around me, and the interaction and dynamics of the family and everything else, because I don't have a whole bunch of negative experience memories. And it seems to me that one of the memories that we have there have the most energy behind them are these negative memories.
Yeah, you have
in
to let
many,
them go, right?
many times. So it says, okay, self-forgiveness is not about letting yourself off the hook, nor is it a sign of weakness. The act of forgiveness, whether you're forgiving yourself or someone who has wronged you, does not suggest that you're condoning the behavior, and that's your own behavior or someone else's.
Yeah.
To forgive yourself, you should.
First, number one is understand your emotions.
Well, you have to look at it objectively. You have to say, oh boy. And the question also becomes, is the reaction proportionate to the experience?
Yeah.
You know, sometimes, and that goes down to communication too, in many ways. People are
Yeah.
having two different conversations, or something's going on in their experience or your experience that's coloring your reaction to some totally unrelated thing.
Yeah. Well, there's certain trigger words that everybody has.
Based on past experience.
Exactly. And that's
Mhm.
kind of what the Krishnamurti was talking about. Can you observe those things without the judgment of the conditioning that you
Without
have?
falling back into the
Right.
trap.
Exactly.
Mhm. So then it says accept responsibility. You know, I have been in situations over the 40 years that I practiced law for community associations. I've been in a situation on a number of occasions in which I have said, I'm very sorry that you're upset. And that was an apology, not for what I did
Mhm.
or for what the situation was, but it was somebody had gotten all energized with this, motive, all this wound up with all this negative stuff. And I have said, and I've taught this many times, apologize to them because they're upset.
Yeah.
Not because you did anything wrong.
Yeah.
And if you did something wrong, take responsibility for what happened.
Yeah. That's also, you have to forgive yourself in that sense too. So you can look at something, boy, that was a stupid thing I did. Well, let me let it go.
Well, you have to let it
Yeah.
go, or
Of
it's going to
course.
cripple you. You
Yeah.
know, it impedes your ability to grow and to continue down the road.
And that's part of number 3, which is treat yourself with kindness and compassion.
Yeah, and
mean-
we talk a lot about being kind to other people, but how about being kind to ourselves?
Yeah.
You have to take the same understanding and compassion for yourself
Yeah.
that you offer to other people,
And number 4 is express remorse for your mistakes.
and make amends and apologize,
Right.
including apologizing to yourself.
So these kind of
Again,
just go in order of thinking. Make amends and apologize. Look for ways to learn from the experience.
now that's an important one,
Mhm.
because you can take all the lessons that you learned from having a negative interaction or a disappointment or whatever, and find ways to be creative and have a different experience next time the situation comes up
Well, and that
and
means focusing on making better choices.
for the future. Right.
So forgiveness means that you accept the behavior, you accept what has happened, and you're willing to move past it, move on with your life without, rummaging over those past events that can't be changed.
Reliving.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
So-
the thoughts going around your head.
So the 4 R's, they call it, of self-forgiveness is responsibility, remorse, restoration, and renewal.
Yeah. So, and then the article goes on to give you a little more detail on each one of those categories. And it talks about, your body, again, your body believes what your brain believes what your body tells it, and your words, what you tell it. And so you got, you're letting go and forgiving yourself is critical to mental health. And it helps with depression, and it helps with anxiety. And also, your body reacts physically
Sure
to
does.
negative energy and to mental
Yeah.
negative
Well, your
energy.
posture completely changes too. When you're thinking of negative things, you start to go inward and you're going, slumping over. Where more positive attitude as you're sitting up straight. One of the
Well,
things,
even walking around the house, I remind myself to stand up straight and breathe deeply and experience the joy of getting up in the morning and
Yeah.
getting with the routine and so on. And if I find myself slumping over, I try to monitor that so that it doesn't sneak up on me.
Yeah. One of the things it says here, limitations for forgiving yourself is while self-forgiveness is a powerful practice, it's important to recognize that this model is not intended for people who unfairly blame themselves for something they aren't responsible for. So this is people who are suffering from abuse, trauma, a sense of loss, feeling ashamed of things that they have no control over, those types of things.
Yeah, I mean, if you had, again, you can't change what already happened, but you can change how you react to it
Exactly.
and how you remember.
Yeah.
All right, let's just quickly touch on the how to have a positive mindset. And I had forgotten about this. The article starts with, remember Peter Pan's secret to flying? First, you got the pixie
Oh,
dust.
you're talking about the next article.
Yeah, the next
Oh,
article.
sorry.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But in addition to pixie dust, you had to think happy thoughts in order to fly.
Yeah.
And I had forgotten about that part. And
That was the beautiful part, because being 10 years old, it's easy to have that happiness in you, right?
Right.
Because you
haven't
have
quite been, it hasn't been beaten out of you yet
well, that's what
by life.
Yeah, for sure. But also, I mean, what do you have? You have no responsibility, maybe making your bed.
You gotta go to
For some people,
school.
you gotta go
whatever.
to school. But summertime, that
Mhm.
was the freedom, right?
Right.
3 months of freedom or whatever it
Mhm.
was. Yeah. And Peter Pan, I have a special connection to him because when I saw the movie, I thought of myself as Peter Pan. And I
Told everybody at school your name was Peter.
So I had that big fantasy. I think, I was already in the United States for a couple of years. And I think it was part of me just trying to be happy.
Mhm.
And forgetting about the moving and getting new friends and stuff like that. So, and this was really early in because we were still living in southern Ontario and hadn't moved up to Sudbury yet. And I remember we had this house that I could climb up on the roof real easy. And then when people come by, I would jump off the roof and say, "Hi, I'm Peter Pan." So
To the distress of your
my parents didn't enjoy that part too much. But mostly my mother.
It's a miracle all your limbs are intact.
Yeah.
You
First time I learned to roll.
You lived through your childhood. Okay, so this is talking about a positive mindset, and it says that you can learn how to have a positive mindset, and it offers 5 practical strategies for nurturing positive thoughts and emotions that will benefit you. And it says the first thing it talks about is positivity. It says a positive mindset is less about being positive all the time and more about learning how to accept negative emotions and let them go rather than ruminate and worry.
Yeah.
Worry is a huge, huge waste of energy.
Yeah, positivity is often viewed as an innate quality. You're either born with it or you're not born with
And
it.
I don't think that's correct.
Well, it says researchers stress that being positive is a skill, an important one at that. It's a skill that can be learned, and the only way to improve it is to practice it. So having practical strategies for cultivating this positive attitude.
So yeah, the first one they mentioned is practicing gratitude daily, and we've talked about that a little bit already. Just
and you can use questions, questioning on yourself, or you can use these thankful phrases, being thankful
you
for
can
this.
keep a journal, you can make little slips of paper in a happy jar. There's lots of things you can do. Then number 2 is reframing negative thoughts. And I think about that experience I had one morning. I got up, but you had already gone to work and we were in Florida. And I 3 things just kind of went askew. I tripped over something, or I forgot something, or something didn't work out well. And I got in the shower and I was thinking, man, what else can go wrong? And then I said, wait a minute. Wait a minute. No, what can go right? And I caught myself and I reframed it. And that changed my whole experience for the rest of the day.
Yeah. How can I change this?
But first you have to notice that you're framing things in a negative way.
You have to be the observer, right?
Yeah. Well, you have, and it's also called mindfulness.
Right.
And it's like whatever.
Then you need to evaluate it. Can you identify this? You know,
After you identify a negative thought, sit with it for a moment and figure out what, think about why it's there. And often what happens is something flitted across your mind that was unrelated to what you were doing. And I find that this happens every now and again for me, and I catch it because I'm waiting, I'm in tune.
right.
And it's a matter of, I'm feeling really good when I got up in the morning and I'm thinking, this is a great day. And I'm moving around the house with a really, and emanating lots of good energy. And then all of a sudden something pops into my head, a negative thought, a memory, something. And I have to actually catch it and say, all right, now, what does this have to do with anything?
Right.
Or did it have anything to do with anything?
Yeah. So that's some of it's
So,
just that conditioning that we have.
Things, it's very important. And then reframing, take the situation that triggered the negative thought, look at it from a different angle. Sometimes when I'm doing my life coaching, I'll talk to somebody and say, okay, well, here's another way of looking at it. What if that person was acting from this motivation instead? And, it really helps clarify and take the inner negative energy out of some of these things.
Surrounding yourself with positivity. We kind of talked about that in the last article.
Pick people who, even on dumb old Facebook. I mean, I've gotten to the point where I am not willing to be subjected to the toxicity of some of these people.
Yeah.
I love them dearly. They're wonderful people, but boy, oh boy, have they got negative things to say. And so I've just I either snooze them for 30 days, or if it gets really annoying and consistent, I'll unfriend them I'll unfollow them, not unfriend them, so that I don't see their posts anymore.
Yeah.
And
Well, the social media is not a good thing. I still use it mostly for jiu-jitsu, but I do find myself drawn to it. Oh, what's this and what's that? But
well,
it is a negative thing. It's a waste of time most of the time, for sure.
I want to see pictures of the grandkids and the great grandkids, and I want to see the birthdays. I like to celebrate, so tell everybody happy birthday, and that's why I'm on Facebook. And I don't want to hear somebody's vicious expression of hate for whatever it is. I mean, and we're talking about hating traffic, or, it's like, come on.
Well, we don't have much traffic here,
No,
thank goodness.
Thank goodness, yeah. No, but I mean, the point is that it's better not to. I've had many friends who've said, I'm getting off Facebook, bye.
Well, to conclude this, there's a few ways that you can cultivate a positive personal and social environment. And they name 3 things here. Think about things that make you happy, recognize sources of negativity in your life, and then work positive habits into your daily life. We've really talked about this throughout all the
this one is really good. Working positive habits. Text your friends and family. I have some cousins, first cousins and second cousins. It happens that we're very close with second, third, fourth cousins all over the country and the world. And but there were certain cousins I call every month, and just to touch base. And it means that I'm checking up on them, and that means I care, and people do really appreciate it. Plus, sometimes it helps you catch up with what's going on with the family and so on. And I just have my little list. It's about 5 or 6 people. And I enjoy talking to them, and they love it, and it works out. And the biggest, I think one of the hugest problems during the lockdown was isolation, where people couldn't talk to each other, couldn't be with each other, couldn't do their social things. And especially if they were young adults on their own without company, or elderly people, there were so many things. Human contact is critical to our health and well-being.
Well, let's make a positive entrance into 2025. I hope you enjoyed this. And this
Let us know if you have
Yeah.
comments or if you have experiences you're willing to share, and we'd be interested to hear what's going on.
And-
Meantime,
Yeah, meantime, thanks for sticking around, and we'll see you on the next show.
be well.
Bye-bye now.